The Dallas Cowboys won 40-0 last night. I'm sure you've heard by this point. Looked pretty good. It's protecting the defensive side of the ball and on special teams, which is where the game really kicked off for Dallas. Giants get the ball first. Saquon Barkley's running it down the field. Daniel Jones looks fine. He's a little bit, he gets some yards on some of those scrambles. You're like, okay, Giants putting some together offensively. Good little game plan. Then they have a penalty, then a sack that pushes them back from field goal range, and then Dallas gets a kick block, returns it all the way for a touchdown. Again, up to that point, you're like, okay, this might be an interesting Sunday night game. I took Dallas to win and to cover and to win by double digits. Obviously, I could have never in my wildest dreams envisioned this happening because I know a lot of people are bagging on the Giants today. I'll get to that. To me, this had way more to do with Dallas being really good and maybe better than a lot of people thought coming into the season. Certainly, I don't think any of us, including myself, saw 40-0 coming. Even the biggest Cowboys fan didn't see this. But again, my biggest takeaway overall from this game is obviously Dallas' defense. And listen, under Dan Quinn over the last 3 years, they've gotten progressively better. They drafted well, obviously starting with Micah Parsons. That's where it all starts and ends with Dallas' defense. He was unbelievable. He had they gave him a sack. I think it was just one sack. I thought it sounded like more than that. I thought it sounded like more than that or it looked like more than that for the Giants and for Daniel Jones than what Micah Parsons did to them. But he had 6 pressures. He looked good. But I thought overall for Dallas, it was the thing that stood out to me comparatively to some of the contenders in the NFC. They were absolutely flying around the field. That was probably the fastest Dallas Cowboys defense I think I've ever seen. Again, the only comparison I can think of is San Francisco the last couple of years. San Francisco back in 2019. Some of those Pittsburghs, trying to get some positive Steelers takes in on the show today because there's not that many, so I'm trying to sneak them in. But some of those Steelers defenses back in the day with Troy Polamalu, that's what it reminds me of. I'm not going to go to Legion of Boom. I'm not going to go to 85 Bears. Let's not go too crazy after 1 week. But Dallas, again, they were just better athletes and more fast than the Giants were. And it isn't like the Giants are devoid of good players. Darren Waller's a dang good tight end. I didn't think they used Jalen Hyatt enough, but Jalen Hyatt's one of the fastest players in football. Saquon Barkley is no scrub. He didn't just forget how to play running back. This, to me, had more to do with Dallas playing well. And again, I know a lot of Giants fans are, but even Cowboys fans, NFL fans are ripping Daniel Jones to shreds today. And listen, I'm not going to sit up here and act like Daniel Jones played well. You look at the Daniel Jones numbers, they're about as bad as it gets. 15 for 28, only positive for him as he completed over 50% of his passes. 104 yards, 2 picks. One was really bad to Stephon Gilmore. Pass rating of 32 to QBR 0 to 100 of 8. So it was a bad. Tyrod Taylor threw 2 passes in garbage time, had a higher QBR than Daniel Jones. That's not great. In all honesty, though, watching that game, Dallas had over 20 pressures. Given how it felt like every time Daniel Jones lined up in shotgun, took the snap, there was somebody coming on the interior. Sometimes it was Parsons. Sometimes it was Odigizua, who had 2 sacks, I believe. Sometimes DeMarcus Lawrence was getting in there. Dante Fowler was coming out the edge, had a big night. Listen, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I never have been. I thought the $40 million contract he got was insanity. I didn't know, as I've been saying all offseason, said on my buddies, the Cowboys Camp Fan show, check their show out. They had a blast last night, obviously. A lot of crack if you got 'ems were shouted, of course. But I said on their show, been saying all offseason, I didn't know 15 touchdown passes awarded you a $40 million a year contract. That's neither here nor there. I'm not so sure Patrick Mahomes would have put the Giants in position to win that game last night. He probably wouldn't have gotten shut out because he's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback on earth. But I swear, it felt like every single time Daniel Jones took the snap, somebody was in his face. And so for Dallas, if this is, listen, you're going to have games where you're not as good defensively. Dallas plays obviously much better offenses, such as San Francisco. Philadelphia will get it right. That was a rainstorm. I'll get to the Eagles later in the show. You've got the Chargers, who are good offensively with Justin Herbert. You got some teams down the pipe that can score on you. But if you keep this up, you're not going to shut everybody out, obviously, but if you keep something similar to this up, turning the football over, getting to the quarterback, again, the Giants' offensive line, while young, isn't bad. They looked incompetent last night, and sometimes greatness can do that to you. Dallas is in that conversation with Pittsburgh, with San Francisco. At least those are the top 3 defenses in my view, albeit my Steelers didn't show it yesterday. I believe we'll show it the rest of the year. Dallas is in that discussion to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. And that is something that, again, we talk, all the stories this offseason has been about Dak, has been about McCarthy, been about, obviously, them adding Brandon Cooks, how this offensive line going to look, trying to bounce back from a down season last year, no Zeke, CeeDee Lamb trying to have another back-to-back year, trying to place Dalton Schultz, which I don't think is that big a replacement, but that's neither here nor there. We forget about the defense, but again, for Dallas, and now this sort of transitions me to Dak. A lot of folks are kind of going at Dak today, and folks know I'm the resident Dak Prescott defender in all of sports media, podcasting and otherwise. Was Dak mind-blowingly good? No. Why would the Dallas have to ask him to be? I mean, before Dak touched the football, the Cowboys were up 6-0. Before he touched the ball, before the Cowboys offense took the field, they're up 6-0. Led him to a field goal drive. Dallas defense ended up getting a pick six off the Saquon Barkley drop. I think that was Deron Bland who made the play there to pick it off and return it for a touchdown. If you're Dallas, your defense is playing lights out. Why in God's name would you have asked Dak to throw it all over the yard? It's kind of like the kid who gets everything he wants for Christmas, but like that one thing, and he whines and pouts because he didn't get that one thing and totally ignores. He's got like 9 things on his Christmas list, and it's like, boy, this kid's a brat. Like, are you kidding me? Are we like if that's kind of the way we're nitpicking? Again, if we're going to criticize anybody, it probably should be the New York Giants and the game plan. And by the way, to defend Brian Dable. He was bringing tight ends to try and ship the defensive end on the edges. It still wasn't working. So you essentially had 6 blockers. Sometimes he had Saquon back there, not as much as I would have liked, but sometimes he did. They were flying all over the field. That was as impressive a defensive performance from Dallas as you could possibly ask for. I'm not going to act like the Giants are just a bunch of world beaters, but man, they look good. And they look every bit like a team that I predicted to get to the Super Bowl. Said before this year, obviously I'll get to San Francisco, Pittsburgh. San Francisco looked awesome, much to my chagrin, as they were, it's so ironic, they were the finalists with my Steelers, then they come in and mop the Steelers. Thankfully, though, for Dallas, thank you, Cowboys, a team I used to be a fan of until 2020. Thank you, Cowboys, for ensuring the fact that Pittsburgh didn't have the worst performance of the day. Which you could argue Cincinnati, probably the worst performance. Them in Seattle, we'll get to some of these games later on. But, wow, what a performance for Dallas. They were spectacular. I don't think there's any reason to go at Dak or the offense. It's kind of like Dak and really Mike McCarthy in particular. Mike McCarthy, after a while, kind of treated this like it was, say you're Ohio State or like the Texas game. By the way, Texas beat Alabama. Texas played Rice the week before. I watched that game. They look shaky as a 30-something point favorite against Rice. Why is that? Well, you got Steve Sarkisian. He's not going to give Nick Saban real legit plays on tape. It's going to be a milk toast type game plan. Not going to show anything flashy. You're going to say that for Alabama. Once Mike McCarthy saw the Cowboys defense doing what they're doing, he's like, why on earth would I want to just throw the ball over the field? That's part of the issue with Kellen Moore. And why I was totally in favor of Dallas moving on from him is that so often Kellen Moore will be all about putting up points and trying to make the offensive numbers look good instead of just, you can play conservative. And I'm typically not a play conservative guy, but if you're up 26-0, 33-0, there's no reason to take any massive shots. By the way, Dak didn't get the benefit of the doubt on some drops by some of his tight ends, but listen, it's crappy conditions, it's wet, it's rainy, it happens. That's something that's catching the football is obviously very easily correctable. That's why I don't want to overreact to what Kadarius Toney did last Thursday, but that's where it's at. So for Dallas, the statement win of the NFL season, very young NFL season, of course, thus far. Again, I don't want to act like the Giants or the Kansas City Chiefs, but this was a playoff team that added offensive pieces, and they shut them out. I get it was a rainstorm, but that was impressive. My gosh, we have a lot of comments. People are, I'll tell you, love or hate the Cowboys, man. They draw an audience, and that's why people laugh at them. Why are they America's team? They haven't won in 28 years. You check Cowboy game ratings. You check the strong opinions positively or negatively for Dallas. Today it's either they're going to the Super Bowl, they're going to go undefeated, or they're overrated, they're going to choke at the end of the playoffs. They draw strong opinions. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.